Hello and welcome to Business Incorporated live on Channels Television. We see the trading week. That's the one before Christmas. That's coming to an end. Last one tomorrow. And it's been quite flat for most markets. Thin trades, not much action. But here are the top stories you'll be watching at this time. Gabon's government is planning to introduce a monthly housing tax starting January for both homeowners and tenants. A bold move aimed at tackling rapidly rising public debt burden. And Uganda's export revenues, that surges sharply in October, nearly doubling year-on-year thanks to booming coffee and gold receipts. And we see global markets on edge as investors brace for today's U.S. inflation numbers. It's good to have you join us. I'm Vladi Williams. Let's get a quick check on what's playing out with prices now. We see precious metals are in focus right here. Key U.S. inflation data, that's coming out. And we see spot gold, U.S. gold futures down 0.2% a piece. But on the other side of the board, we see other metals that we track there in the green. Silver regaining that new high move there, $66.44 per ounce, 0.2% up. Platinum, a big jump, 3.6%, $1,966 per ounce. I remember reporting, platinum sub $1,000 per ounce, but see that big move there. I guess $2,000 is in sight at this point. Let's get a check now on what's playing out with oil prices. We see oil prices, they're jumping nearly $1 in early Asian trade after President Trump ordered a blockade on Venezuelan tankers, labeling Maduro's government a foreign terrorist organization. And there we see it there, about 2 basis point drop there for Brent crude, $59.67 a barrel. On the flip side, though, see 7 basis points rise for WTI crude. That's been trading sub 60 most of November into December at this point. So that's a picture right there in the oil market. And we're seeing other stories now. Gabon, they're planning a new house tax to help tackle rising debts facing mounting a debt burden there. Gabon is set to launch a new monthly housing tax in January, hitting homeowners and tenants alike to help plug fiscal squeeze. The levy, varying by location, is designed to fund basic services like road repairs, city lighting, and cleanliness as the oil-rich nation grapples with rising public debt and a tighter liquidity in regional markets. But with over a third of the population living in poverty, the move is bound to spark debate. And in Uganda, I would see for their exports now in October, they earned nearly double. That's for the economy is firing on all cylinders here. Export earnings nearly doubled last October, jumping from about $770 million to roughly $1.5 billion, powered by a surge in coffee and gold receipts as global coffee prices stay strong and gold demand climbs. Kampala's export boom underscores how commodities are reshaping East Africa's trade landscape. Meanwhile, Uganda is tightening its purse strings, planning to cut domestic debt issuance by over 21% in the 2026-2027 fiscal year as part of a broader strategy to rein in rising public debt and reduce costly interest payments, with the government also aiming to avoid crowding out private sector credit. This move could reshape financing markets just as oil production is set to kick off and the economy is eyeing faster growth at this time. All right, now we turn our focus to a staple that's on every Nigerian's table. That's bread. But behind that simple loaf is a story of rising input costs. That was a story at some point, from wheat to flour to fuel, electricity. Bakers across the country are feeling the squeeze, or are they? At this point, I've seen comments on social media recently that prices of inputs have dropped. Let's find out now what's happening there. Joining me right now, we have Mr. Yomi Awares, the Deputy President, Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria. That's PBAN. Great to have you on the show, sir.
Thank you for having me, Larry.
Fantastic. So, definitely, we always track bread. At this point, we want to know if the average consumer is still able to afford bread, at this point. But we know we've been talking about, elevated prices, and we've heard bread makers talk about high input costs,
Yes.
To produce that loaf. But word on the street is the inputs, most of the inputs, flour, and all of that, those prices have come down, but bread prices stay elevated. What's playing out?
Okay, first, thank you once again for having me, Ladi. First, it is important that we say categorically that the claim that the price of flour, which is the last 35 to 40,000, is false, is baseless, and is unfounded. Obviously, I mean, the price of flour, it's not something that is hidden. Walk to a flour retail store, you can determine for yourself what the price of flour. And I can tell you that today, the price of flour ranges from 55,000 to 62,000, depending on the quality of flour.
Right, according to FDC data there, flour, 50 kg,
yes,
bag about 62,005, depending
on the quality of the flour, because there are low gluten flour and there are high gluten flour.
Right, then we see eggs, 5.5.
Yes, 5,500.
Wheat flour, that's a 10 kg.
12,000.
About 12,000.
Absolutely correct.
Right. So if a 50 kg, what would that cost for wheat flour?
For wheat flour, the 50 kg is about 58,000.
58,000.
Yes.
Start of the year, what was it trading at?
At start of the year, it was 60,000. So the reduction that is being talked about here is just 2,000 naira, and that is approximately 20 naira reduction in the price of bread. And so, I mean, saying that the price of bread should come as low, should be dropped. I mean, it is impossible. Now, there are other costs. You talk about other ingredients. Flour is just one out of many. You could have as many as 20 ingredients in the production of bread. Now, these other ingredients, shall we say that the price has also dropped? That is not true. And besides this, there are also other hidden costs in bread production. I mean, talk about the cost of replacement equipment. An oven, a 2-rotary oven, costs as much as 60 million naira. Okay, so you've got your equipment, 90% of which are imported. The price hasn't dropped in any way. You have the cost of logistics for supply of your bread, maintenance. I mean, for those who use car, you can tell what it costs to maintain a car. This is an hidden cost. The minimum wage is put at 70,000. As an association, our members have tried to pay something that is reasonable to keep the business afloat, to keep the business going. Minimum wage you have to grapple with. You have the cost of diesel, the cost of electricity. I mean, what was the price of electricity, the cost of electricity last year? What is the price of electricity? So all these aiding costs, when you put together, completely drop in the price of flour.
Right, and it's quite interesting. You know, when you track inflation, so far this year, we've seen inflation that's been dropping. You know, most of this year, we're at 14% now, according to the National Bureau of Statistics. So one would expect, oh, fine, headline inflation, that's dropping. So prices of stuff like bread, that should also drop. Well, but I guess we're not seeing that.
Unfortunately, bread production is import dependent. That is the irony of it. The exchange rate has been stable a little bit, so that has kept the price of bread ingredients perhaps from skyrocketing. That has also helped us.
We like
there is
stability,
right, but not a drop in the price of bread, I'm sorry.
Right, so I guess before we can see that meaningful drop in the price of bread, exchange rate, what's the sweet spot there? Are we saying 1,000 naira to the dollar before we can see reasonable change?
It could be between 1 to 1,000. I mean, apparently, if that's the exchange rate, you would expect that the cost of wheat import, you know, should drop, and that should cascade, you know, to the production of, and vis-a-vis all other ingredients, you know, something reasonable between 1,000 and 1,200, I think is reasonable.
Because, you know, I guess why we see some of that trending on social media, you know, talking about how bread makers are keeping bread prices up when some of the inputs are supposedly coming down. I did see some of that, you know, on WhatsApp, you know, at this time. But I guess it's understandable, you know, people would feel this way because most of the time we notice that there's that element of profiteering.
Yeah.
You know, people are quick to, you know, sellers are quick to raise prices once there's maybe a rise in fuel prices or, you know, inputs. But when inputs come down, it's slower. Prices are stickier, you know, upward.
Larry, unfortunately, that is not the case for bread. You know, though the industry is unregulated, but some of us, you know, under the auspices of Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria, has been able to keep the industry running. And that is why we have to put this clarity, to the face of the public. That's why we've done a rejoinder or a rebooter to the fact that the price of flour has dropped as low as 35, 40,000 naira. We have just tried to keep our business afloat. Like some of the reasons which I gave, the eating cost, which people actually do not see. Bread is not made manually. Bread is made with mechanical equipment. And these equipments are imported and very, very expensive. So running a bakery, it's not a child's play. It is capital based, including the cost of making a bread pan. A typical family loaf bread pan, which you pick from, on the table, the cost of a bread pan is as much as 20,000 naira. Multiplied by the number of bread pans. How about the trolleys? How about, and these assets, like we call it, because they are actually CapEx, capital expenses, will also have to be replaced over time. By the time you've done 1 year with your bread pan, 6 months to 8 months, you have to replace them so that you can produce a very clean, bread and have a clean bread on the table. So there is no profit. As many that tries to come into the industry, the baking industry, especially those who do not have a clear understanding of what obtains, they also find themselves on their way out. So because we love what we do, what we just try to do is to sustain our business and also provide bread, which many Nigerians love.
Right. Yeah, we do love our bread.
Oh, sure.
At this point, we don't play with bread in this part,
Yeah.
but definitely, I'm hoping for a time where most of these inputs don't have to be imported, so
Hopefully.
we can produce it here and keep all of that foreign exchange here, and also help make those inputs affordable.
Hopefully.
I'm hoping for that. What do you see for the cost of bread 2026?
Well, in as much as the exchange rate remains stable, I think the cost of bread will also remain stable on the
Stable,
table.
but not drop, just stable.
Well, like I said, it's because the inputs are imported. 90% of the input. The wheat we're talking about, the margarine, the sugar, the improver, and whatnot, all are import-based.
Fantastic.
So it is, dependent on.
Maybe at some point you teach me how to make bread.
Oh,
so
sure.
I'd love to make some.
I'll be willing to.
Thank you so much, sir. It was great having you, Mr. Yomi Awe, as the Deputy President, Premium Bread Makers Association of Nigeria. That's PBAN.
Thank you. Thank you, Ladi, for helping me. And I urge the public to keep eating bread.
Keep eating bread at this point. Yeah, don't worry about your weight. All right. Also, ahead of the festive season, prices of staple food items are once again in focus. One striking example, stockfish, popularly known as okporoko, a premium delicacy widely used in Nigerian soups. The price of a medium-sized stockfish has jumped nearly 88% to about 15,000 naira. And this is, when we've had stable foreign exchange, inflation trending downward. Join me now. Let's talk to Amira Yakubu, analyst, financial derivatives company. Great to have you, Amira. So I guess it's the same story here. Just finished talking to a bread maker. Inflation is trending down. Naira's been stable, but these prices of imported inputs are still rising at this point. So talk to me about what's happening with stockfish.
Okay, thank you so much, Ladi. Okay, so the price of stockfish has been elevated. We've seen year on year over 80%. So this is as a result of several factors such as the festive season demand effects, where we see prices of goods are naturally trending upwards. So stockfish is trending upwards because the elites and families have already started purchasing stockfish. Christmas is near, and this goods is also demanded because people have started people have started cooking special delicacies, soups, and traditional weddings have been happening of recent, where in certain traditions, people demand for stockfish as a special requirement in their list. And also, we know that Nigeria is not a country that produces stockfish, so we are largely import dependent for stockfish from Norway. So we are posed to face certain um, logistics cost issues and port delays. So this is why prices have been on an upward trajectory.
Yeah, it's quite interesting because, you see the Naira being stable, most of, 2025 and even, strengthening sub 1.5, at this point. But we're still seeing all these inputs, all these items, still stay high at this point. And recently, we see the minister, Minister of the Blue Economy, did talk about, Nigeria increasing, fish production, at this time. So at what point do you think we'll see, reasonable prices for, some of these commodities?
Okay, so we've seen the naira to have gained this year by about 11%, but we should understand that there is a relationship between exchange rates and import prices, of which these things are not instantaneous or they don't trend in a linear direction across every goods. So in this case, the reason why the effect of the naira gains has not really translated into these import prices is because is because people or producers, people that the importers have to sell their inventories as at when they demanded for the stock fish at high exchange rates. So they have to sell those commodities left before the price effects come to play. And we already know that prices are sticky downwards. So this effect of that naira appreciation is a necessary one, but it's insufficient because there are other factors that come to play. So we've seen that the minister of the minister spoke about it, I think the month of October, where Norway is looking at having no import duties or stock fish. So if this can happen, we can see prices to come down to some certain extent.
Fine. I guess, at some point, I hope consumers in Nigeria can enjoy low prices, really, as inflation and, the currency stays stable. Thank you so much, Amira Yakubu, analyst, financial derivatives company. Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's get a check on what's playing out with the markets now, starting with the African continent. Now, see trading on the NGX, just about 7 basis points down at intraday, 149,734. And we see the likes of First Holdco, getting attention again, just like yesterday, about 8% at intraday. Total Nigeria, I think that was down when I checked it earlier in terminal. Johannesburg Stock Exchange, 0.86%. That's looking strong today at intraday, 115,024 points for the index. Look at other parts of Africa now. See the EGX 30. EGX 30, that's holding on also 0.10%, 41,544 points. That'll be closed tomorrow. The Nairobi Stock Exchange yesterday up a big 0.83% and recovering 180 points for the NSI. Then let's get a check now on Gulf region. We see Dubai index. That's a mixed picture. Just like yesterday, 0.03% down. But the Abu Dhabi index on the flip side, that's up big, 0.42% at intraday, 9,995 points. Then a flip over to the Tadawul in Saudi Arabia, that's stronger, 0.12%. I guess that recovery was seen in the oil market with oil prices. I guess that's helping the Tadawul there regain some ground, 0.12%. Then, the oil industry, big news. We see BP. They've appointed their 4th CEO in 6 years. Once again, changing leadership, but not in its strategy. The energy giant has named Woodside Energy boss Meg O'Neill as its new chief executive. The 4th CEO in just 6 years, signaling, continuity rather than a sharp change in direction after Muriel Okinlos's brief tenure. The appointment comes as BP continues to, balance investor pressure, energy transition ambitions, and legacy of past leadership shifts from the post-Deepwater Horizon recovery under Bob Dudley to Bernard Looney's push towards, green energy, a strategy that later faced market pushback. So that's the new leader right there for BP. We'll keep a check on how it plays out for her. All right, to the U.S. now. S&P futures traded near the flat line. See overnight investors, they're waiting inflation data that could be a catalyst, for the market. And we're seeing the green there. The stock futures are right there, 25,000 for the tech-heavy NASDAQ. That's had that tech sell-off, so far. S&P futures 0.37% to the good. And we see the Dow Jones Industrial Average 0.12%, giving us direction on what to expect for the market close today. Maybe it might close in the green. All right, let's get a quick check on what's playing out with Asia markets now. We see as a mixed picture, there with the Nikkei, a big drop, 1.03%. The Kospi, 1.53% down. But we see on the green there, the Hang Seng Index is 0.12%, mirroring what we're seeing with Wall Street, the stock futures right there. We'll see if that also continues. But the Nifty 50 also trying to hold on right there. All right, let's get a check now what's playing out in Europe. We have Lars Holter with the details. Hello, Lars. Great to have you. What's the picture for markets right there in Europe?
Yeah, Ladi, good to be with you. It is another uninspired day here, but we are in the green, and that is true actually for all the European markets. I just checked in on London and Paris and Madrid. All of them in the green, but just by a couple of fractions. And the same is true for the DAX. And this entire day here on European markets is really driven by non-news, because the main topic for today's trading session is, of course, the meeting of the European Central Bank that is ongoing as we speak. So we don't know officially what's going to happen, but there is a pretty broad consensus in the market that the ECB will not change interest rates once again, leaving them at the current 2%. And that is pretty clear because of the current economic data that we're looking at. There is a bit of growth in the economy, and inflation is right at 2.1%. Which is just where central bankers, of course, want it. So barring any absolutely crazy surprises, we will see the ECB do nothing today, the meeting being a non-event then, and markets are just, I guess, trotting along for another day.
Quite interesting. Investors focusing on the ECB, BOE, Bank of Japan this week. But on another note, German universities are reporting a sharp increase in applications from the U.S. What's driving this trend and causing this rise?
Yeah, indeed, Ladi. The German Academic Exchange Service, that is the world's largest funding organization for the international exchange of students and researchers. They're saying that the number of applications coming from the United States to study in Germany have more than doubled this year. And they're tying this directly to President Trump's policies in the U.S. Since taking office, Trump has cut billions of dollars in funding for universities. He has curtailed academic freedom. Add to that, of course, Trump's immigration policies and the fact, that many top researchers and top students in the U.S. are actually from other countries. And, you have a lot of people worrying about not only their academic career, but also about their future in the U.S. And that is why they're looking for an alternative, and in many cases finding it here in Germany. Now, the organization does say that while we're seeing an uptick of U.S. applications, that is due to recent politics. Generally, the quality of German universities has always been well known around the world, and current numbers prove that point too. Besides tens of thousands of students from other EU countries, of course, Germany is also an academic home to some 58,000 students from India, 38,000 from China. There's also thousands of students from several African countries as well. So Germany is already seen as a great location for academics, but current developments in the U.S. have certainly helped tip the scales here a little bit.
All right, beyond, academia now, how important could this influx be for the German economy?
Oh, Ladi, this could be huge. Germany obviously wants the economic backbone of the EU, and one of the most innovative countries in the world, has seen a weak economy for years. We have also seen our dependency on other countries rise. We've seen countries like China playing a much bigger role, no longer in manufacturing, but in development of future technologies. And it's high time for Germany to change course and find ways to grow stronger in this global fight for leadership and for influence. Now, Germany is currently investing, of course, in future technologies, but we are in many sectors dealing with a shortage of skilled workers, for example, and often with the infrastructure needed to innovate and develop leading businesses. So if we're getting more of the world's brightest minds to study here, and if we then manage to integrate them in our society and to keep them here, we have a much better chance economically in the long run as well.
All right, definitely. We'll keep tracking that. Thank you so much, Lars, for the details.
Thank you, Ladi.
All right, now let's get a check on what's playing out with the crypto market there. We did see some kind of recovery in the market, but it's a mixed picture there. But Bitcoin trying to get back up 0.34%, $87,227. But the other side of this screen, Most of the altcoins still struggling at this point, with Ethereum, $2,867, 2.01% down, losing that $3,000 mark and getting further away from it. BNB, $839, XRP, 1.37% down. Let's get a check now. Some top headlines there. We see Coinbase, they've opened a new tab appointing a former British Finance Minister, George Osborne, to run Internal Advisory Council. The company confirmed this today, and as it aims to expand its influence with governments beyond the U.S. Then Ripple CEO Brad Garlinghouse is highlighting a major milestone for XRP as spot ETFs for the token recorded a historic 30-day streak of consecutive net inflows despite a volatile broader market. The sustained institutional demand marks a significant shift in investor confidence, while the massive buying pressure has yet to spark a price breakout for that coin yet. But we'll see if that leads to investors buy some of these coins. And we see Bitcoin ETFs also see over 450 million inflows right there. That's for the ETFs there. So we're seeing inflows at this point. Still the last trading full week of 2025, but Bitcoin, this trades 24/7, holidays or not, is trading on at this point. So that's all that's played out this week. So markets still, trying to find direction at this time, but it's still limited trading volume, not much action at this point. We'll bring you the TGIF trade. That's tomorrow for this week. Thanks for watching Business Incorporated. I'm Ladi Williams from the team right here at Channels HQ. It's bye for now.